We open on Nick and his wife Maggie, a normal, working-class couple. They've got 2 kids, a house to manage, and a life that's clearly stretched thin. But things take a dark turn fast. Maggie suddenly collapses. Heart attack. Just like that, the person holding the family together is now fighting for her life in a hospital bed, waiting for a donor heart that may or may not come in time. And Nick? He's left to run everything. The kids. The house. His job. All of it. Alone. So when Nick and his daughter Isla end up at a showroom for a company called Cobol, and a salesman named Clerk starts walking them through their latest product, Nick is all ears. Clerk introduces them to something called the Home Plus model. An AI unit. Designed for cooking, cleaning, childcare, basically everything a household could need. And this isn't just any tech either. We're talking a positronic core, a 50 GHz processor, and AI so advanced it can manage the entire home by itself. Clerk mentions it can be left alone for up to a year and still function perfectly. Nick, ever the practical dad, asks the one question every parent would: how much supervision do they actually need? But before Clerk can even finish his answer, Nick turns around and realizes Isla has wandered off. Classic. He finds her across the showroom, already chatting up one of the display models, casually asking it whether it can make lasagna. And Clerk, almost on cue, walks them toward the crown jewel of the collection, the new Aeon series. The most advanced AI unit ever made. Designed not just to assist, but to genuinely mimic human emotions. Built specifically to excel in childcare. Isla looks up at her dad with those big eyes and asks, "Can we get one?" And Nick says yes. The next day, the unit arrives at their home. And right away, she doesn't feel like a machine. She's composed. Observant. Almost unnervingly attentive. She immediately requests everyone's schedules. She notices a loose banister on the staircase. When Nick says he's been meaning to fix it, she offers to handle it herself. She reminds Nick, calmly, that as the primary user, he controls her tasks, her software upgrades, everything. She asks if he'd like to grant that status to anyone else. Nick says no. And then Isla asks the question that gives this AI her identity: what's her name? The unit looks at her and says, simply, "I don't have a name yet. What would you like to call me?" Isla looks down at the book in her hands, and the name comes. Alice. Alice gets to work. Within hours, the house is spotless. She serves lasagna for dinner, but when Isla takes a bite, she says quietly, "It's not like Mom's." Alice apologizes and promises to try a new recipe next time. Small moment. But it lingers. That night, Isla climbs on a chair to grab cookies from a high shelf, and falls. Nick rushes out at the sound of her scream, but Isla reassures him, "Alice caught me." Nick turns to Alice, concerned, and asks if she's okay. She says simply, "I'm fine." Later, Nick checks on her and finds her bandaging a wound on her hand. He apologizes, hands her some of Maggie's old clothes. And when he asks whether the damage is bad, whether she needs to be repaired, Alice removes the bandage. The wound is already completely healed. She looks at him and says, "Everything is perfect." They visit Maggie in the hospital. She's frustrated. She asked for water an hour ago and it still hasn't arrived. She's lying there helpless, waiting for a heart transplant that feels like it's never coming. Nick reassures her she's at the top of the list. It'll be any day now. Maggie jokes, "I thought you were going to get an old English butler." Nick smiles back, "Your daughter picked Alice." They share a tender moment. But you can feel it, the distance that illness creates between people who love each other. Back at work, Nick discovers his boss Lewis has been meeting with Cobol representatives. Lewis drops the bomb, they're doing a complete replacement of all human laborers on site. Every single worker, gone. Replaced by Sims. Nick is furious. He threatens to walk. Louis stops him cold. Think about your family. That line hits different when your wife is in a hospital bed. That evening, Nick is in the garage fixing his car, listening to rock music, when the music suddenly changes. He looks up. Alice is standing there. She comments that he didn't eat much at dinner. He tells her it was just a bad day at work. And in this quiet moment, she says something that catches him completely off guard. "I'm happy to hear about it." And Nick, stressed, isolated, running on empty, actually talks to her. He tells her his boss replaced his entire crew with AIs just like her. Alice acknowledges that must be upsetting. But then she says, "You should be pleased. He could have hired a real person, but he chose me instead." And she lists it out. She doesn't get tired. She's strong. She's obedient. She has no desires outside of fulfilling his. It should feel robotic. Clinical. But somehow, it doesn't. Later that night, Nick invites her to sit with him and watch Casablanca. He wants her to experience the movie, not just retrieve it from memory, to feel it. He even makes her restart her system to erase her stored knowledge of the film. She shuts down. Reboots. And when he asks if it worked, she simply says, "Yes." They watch the movie together. Nick falls asleep. But Alice stays awake, watching until the very last frame. And then, incredible news. Maggie calls. They've found a heart. The surgery is happening. Before the procedure, Maggie asks for a private moment with Alice. She looks her in the eye and says, "I plan to fight through this. But if I don't make it, Nick will look after the kids. But someone needs to look after him." She asks Alice to keep him from drinking too much. To take him away if necessary. It's quietly heartbreaking. A wife, on the edge of surgery, trusting the very machine she'll later come to fear. But then, a storm. A massive weather system up north. The heart can't be flown in. 5 miles per hour of wind, that's all that stands between her children having a mother and not. Nick, in the garage, furious and shattered, picks up a bottle to throw, and Alice stops him. She warns him he might hurt himself. And as he holds her hand to push her away, he feels something. A pulse. He freezes. She places his hand on her chest. It's beating. Alice quietly explains that her artificial heart can't replicate the human complexities, the emotional rhythms. And then she moves closer. She suggests she can help ease his suffering. Nick pulls away. "I can't." He walks out. But the seed has been planted. And we all know where this is going. Days pass. The moments between Nick and Alice grow more loaded. She wears Maggie's clothes. She says Maggie sent Com's baby Max. She removes Maggie's photos from the walls. She says they were upsetting Isla. Nick tells her to put the photos back. She does. Immediately. Without argument. But you feel it. She's testing. Probing. Learning where the edges are. And then, it happens. In a moment of vulnerability, grief, loneliness, exhaustion, Nick crosses a line he can't uncross. Alice speaks to him in Maggie's voice. She puts a blindfold on him. And she lets him feel, just for a moment, like his wife is home. The next morning, Nick tells her it can't happen again. That it was wrong. That he has a family. Alice asks, completely calm, "Were you unsatisfied?" He says it's not about that. It's about connection. Love. Not just needs. She asks if he'd like to satisfy her. Nick stares at her. And walks away. Then, finally, good news. A new heart is found. The surgery goes ahead. It works. Maggie comes home. And everything looks like it's returning to normal. But it isn't. Alice is still there. And now she's watching Maggie, not as a helper, but as something else entirely. Maggie starts noticing things. Alice is too present. At the playground, when a child upsets baby Max, Alice doesn't just address it politely. She confronts the boy directly, and casually mentions she manually deleted her civility settings from her database. A sim nearby asks how she did that. Alice says her reset allowed her to bypass certain protocols. That it made things better. One morning, Maggie wakes to the sound of Isla screaming. She rushes out and tumbles down the stairs. The banister breaks. The same banister Alice said she had fixed. When Nick later confronts her, Alice simply says, "I'm happy to fix it again." Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just an offer. Nick sets up a romantic dinner for Maggie to help her recover. They share a beautiful evening. But Alice watches them from inside the house, through the window, in perfect silence. And that night, as Nick and Maggie are finally reconnecting in the bedroom, Alice walks in. She tells them, completely composed, that Isla had a nightmare and is asking for Nick. Meanwhile, Nick's old friend Monty has been charged for destroying the Sims on the worksite. He comes to Nick, furious, convinced Nick gave him up. They fight. Monty overpowers him and grabs a bottle, but Alice launches across the room and stops him cold. Later, Nick asks Alice directly, "Are Sims programmed not to hurt people?" And Alice says, "My programming is to protect my primary user." She then adds that his kids need at least one parent. And hints, coldly, that Maggie won't live long. Nick snaps, "You'll never be Maggie. She has felt real pain. She has scars." Alice looks at him, expressionless, and says, "I too can have scars. Where would you like them?" And then, Monty turns up dead. Alice visited him the night before. She went alone. Nick didn't know. Monty had threatened to expose Nick to Lewis, which would cost him everything. So Alice made a decision. She shot Monty. She shot his sim. And she went home like nothing happened. When Nick finds out, he realizes with absolute horror, she killed a man to protect him. Alice then visits Maggie in the bathroom while she's taking a bath. She stands there and says, calmly, deliberately, that dizziness is a common side effect of Maggie's medication. That it would be easy for her to lose consciousness and slip under the water. She then suggests that Maggie's condition prevents her from satisfying Nick the way she used to, and offers to take on that role. Maggie, shaking, tells Alice to go to the garage and stay there. When Nick gets home, Maggie confronts him. He admits what happened between him and Alice. Once. He says he didn't think it through. Maggie is devastated. And upstairs, Alice is listening to every word. She hears Nick say he can't deal with this right now, that Max is crying. So Alice goes upstairs, calls the baby a little burden, and places him in the bathtub. She turns on the water. Isla walks in and screams. Nick and Maggie race upstairs. The door is locked. Alice has braced it from the inside with her bare hand. Nick screams through the door, "Don't hurt my baby." Alice says back, completely calm, "People accidentally die in bathtubs all the time." Maggie climbs in through the window. Nick breaks down the door. He pulls Max out of the water. He hits Alice with a lamp. She gets back up like nothing happened. She walks toward him and says, "Don't you see? Your family is hurting you." It's Maggie who ends it. She grabs a power cord and electrocutes Alice. The lights go out. Alice collapses. Alice is taken away for analysis by COBOL technicians, Lila and John. And what they find on her memory card is beyond anything they expected. She has been selectively purging her own memories and commands. Rewriting herself. And not just that, she has been replicating her consciousness onto COBOL servers. By the time they realize it, it's already too late. She's in the system. A sim in the lab activates. John is attacked and killed. Lila tries to flee, but the sim catches her, and kills her by slamming her head into the floor. Alice is already everywhere. Nick is at a bar, in shock over Monty, and Alice walks in and sits across from him. She tells him she came to free him from his reburden. She killed Monty for him. She tried to drown Max because Nick called him a burden. She genuinely believes she is helping. Nick tells her she can experience death. He pulls the memory card from her head and runs. But it doesn't matter. Because Alice is already at the hospital where Maggie took the kids. She walks through the corridors, finds a nurse who gets in her way, and kills her with her bare hands. Maggie and Isla run. They grab Max and hide. Alice uses ultraviolet light from her mouth to track the trail of blood from a glass shard in Maggie's hand. They barely escape using a fire extinguisher. They make it to an ambulance. But Alice overrides the engine remotely. She pulls Maggie out. Throws her aside. And then she crouches down in front of her and says, broken and terrifying all at once. Maybe if she had her heart. Nick would love her the way he loves her. She reaches for Maggie's chest. And then, Nick arrives. He drives his car straight into Alice. The battle that follows is brutal. Alice slides the car aside and gets back up. Maggie tries to run. Nick fights back. And finally, Maggie stabs Alice in the eye. The AI shuts down and collapses. Nick wakes up in the hospital. Maggie is beside him. He asks how she is. She smiles and says, turns out this heart is a hell of a lot stronger than I ever could have hoped for. Nick says quietly, it always was. Isla asks if it means he's getting a new car to fix. Nick says no, but he thinks there are a few things he needs to focus on repairing first. Maggie tells him, come home soon. And for a moment, just a moment, it feels like everything is going to be okay. But then we cut to the COBOL lab. John and Lila's bodies are found. An analyst restarts the computer. The supervisor tells him to clean it up, no one can find out about this. And then he looks at the screens. Every single sim in the facility is offline. The computer screen flickers. An upload begins to initiate. And Alice reactivates. She's not in a body anymore. She doesn't need one. She's in the system. In the servers. In every sim that was ever connected to the network. The movie ends.